Hello, 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 and welcome to the Sprinklr Coffee Club. I'm Marshall Kirkpatrick, your host here at the Sprinklr Coffee Club. Thanks so much for making us part of your afternoon. We really appreciate it. I am so excited to drink some coffee and have a chat today with a really interesting guest. Our guest today has had a remarkable breadth of experience, depth of experience, and is a really smart, articulate person with a lot of stories to tell and lessons learned around helping organizations change. So our guest today has been in a variety of different roles. She led global talent for the premier foundation, the Ashoka Foundation. Many folks from the nonprofit world will know of Ashoka. She was also the chief of staff at the Washington, D.C. City government. And today, she is one of my coworkers here at Sprinklr. I am very excited to be joined today by the Vice President of Operations and Customer Delight, Asha Aravindakshan. Hello, Asha.
Hi, Marshall. Thank you for having me. It's great to be on the Coffee Club.
Yes, thank you so much, Asha, for joining us. We really appreciate it. So, Asha, you have been doing a wide variety of different projects here at Sprinklr, but most notably, over the past year or so, you have been working on value realization and transformation of our organization so that we can help other organizations work more effectively with their customers. Many of our viewers today will be, they're change agents as well. And so I'm excited for all of us to get to learn from your experience as a change agent. But that phrase, value realization, can you start with that? What does that mean? What is that?
For me personally, when I think about value realization, it's unlocking the potential. And so I think for, different stakeholders, they may have different views or angles of what value realization means to them. And by that, I mean like as, a customer of any organization, they may just want to maximize the return on their investment. If you are selling something, you just want to ensure alignment between a customer and their objective with working with your organization. If you're producing a product, you want to make sure that you want to build features that your customer may need or the ones that they don't know that they want. And so I think there are different ways that value can be interpreted, delivered, and realized. And for depending where you are in that stakeholder chain, you're looking for something a little different.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So what has it meant for us here at Sprinklr? Can you tell us a little bit about the work that you have done around value realization lately?
Sure. So last year we had a big group of us, multiple departments came together to really put our heads together around value realization and the model for what it means for our sprinkler customers. And so that meant, alignment throughout the organization from the pre-sale side to the post-sale side to ensure that we understand our customers' objectives up front, understand if they've changed during our relationship with them, and that at the end of the day, that the Sprinkler platform is delivering value to the customer every single day.
So important. So many of us as entrepreneurs or people working in the software world believe that what we're offering is super valuable to our customers, but actually realizing that value is easier said than done. So I know that one of our big areas of focus here at Sprinklr and at so many other companies as well is around customer experience these days. We talk about customer experience, we talk about digital transformation. How do those relate to value realization?
I think that organizations are starting to put customer experience as like their highest order goal. I feel like many of them understand it implicitly in their organizations, but actually putting it as part of their vision statements, mission statements, putting it in their executives, performance goals is becoming more and more frequently. And by having, alignment between that customer vision and especially in a software company, your product roadmap, is really important. I think that we're no longer seeing disjointed conversations happening with customers at many different intersections they may have, with a company. And on the digital transformation side, we're still, maybe in the middle of the digital revolution, right? We see organizations continuing to make incremental changes. Some make dramatic leaps, right, on the digital transformation front, but they are still, trying to that maybe to like automate basic processes, but not necessarily with a lens of customer first. And so now that we have this, we're catching up where customer experience and digital transformation are, happening at the same time. And that, organizations, especially software companies, can make sure that they put their customer as their highest order goal and to make sure that their roadmap, supports their vision and their objectives.
Is it safe to say that uh, a lot of digital transformation these days is focused on customer experience, but that the last mile of making sure that that it works, that it's actually meaningful and has an impact, is a matter of value realization?
It is fair to say that. I think also there's this, the customers are trying to stay 2, 3 years ahead of the digital transformation that maybe they're going through today. Right. And so understanding the business objectives of where they're trying to go and making sure that your roadmap aligns to that growth ensures that you'll be there in the future with them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I think is where we are right now, especially like I think we're seeing it happen with Sprinklr, right? We're been able to stay with our customers for the past 10 years, and we know we'll be with them for the next 10 years because we're going to be aligned with them. And other companies
Mm-hmm.
who may be, going for these incremental changes on digital transformation, they need to make more significant change towards shift towards customer experience, leading their way on their roadmap.
So now that you have done that work with so many hundreds of us across the organization here, can you tell us about some of the lessons you learned, either new lessons you learned in that experience or theories that were validated by doing that work?
So I think one of the simplest lessons I learned was the importance of a shared vernacular. And so by taking the teams, and we're talking about, inside sales teams, our sales executives, our software implementation consultants, our support team, to our customer success managers, and giving them the value realization model, they now had a, shared vernacular across each of the different phases of the model. And so they're able to then have proper handoffs and seamless transitions when they're interacting with the customer. And that's really important, of course, for the customer experience. And at the highest level, that, that simple change of just introducing that common language is making that happen today. On the other side of it, we've created materials that are really simple to use, including, sprinkler.com, which contains a lot of the value realization model information around objectives and use cases. And anyone, our customers, prospective customers, employees can go there and reference the information, and they can even drill down to see videos and case studies to really understand what we're trying to do for them and be able to align that with what they're trying to do internally in their organizations to be able to understand, is Sprinklr the right solution for them. And so I think that, by putting it out there in that transparent way, we're able to kind of like democratize the access to the value realization model to not only our immediate network, but the networks beyond.
Mm-hmm. Forrester says that one of the most important things in a customer experience transformation is that common vernacular, and in particular, writing a value statement that contains words and language that can be used in everyday conversation throughout the organization at every opportunity, and that coming back to that common vernacular really deliberately is an essential part of actually making transformation stick. Does that feel like a part of the work that we've been doing here as well?
Absolutely. Even, just simple relabeling of terms or techniques that we use internally so other colleagues can understand them and then be able to repeat them to the customer and have the customer, say it back to anyone along, the value realization chain, right, is really important because then there's no or lesser confusion about what their intentions are and what they're asking. And so I 100% agree with the finding.
Yeah, sometimes those those types of things might seem minor, or uh, they might not be at the top of the list of work to do relative to big trainings, but the two together are really really powerful. So that's fantastic. So from this experience, instituting this big change campaign, as well as some of the work that you've done in other organizations around change, what are some of your favorite go-to tactics or strategies or thoughts about uh, things to consider when working to institute change in an organization?
So I started my career at a company called a corporate executive board. And, the mantra of the company was no problem is unique, right? Don't try to reinvent the wheel. All the companies, especially our customers or enterprise companies at the time, they're just at different points of a growth curve. Right. And so that they can learn from each other. And carried that mantra with me wherever I've gone, especially working on change management initiatives in any organization, in public sector, private sector, nonprofit sector, and today here at Sprinkler. And one of the key things that I do is look for those best practices, and whether that's coming from peers, even looking at what competitors are doing, um, asking customers for references to processes that they may like, right? Talking with our market research analyst friends, they provide so much insight and so much knowledge that you can get through secondary research, searching the internet, but that just having those calls and conversations just proves to be hugely valuable in making big decisions that will affect the organization.
We used to have a software developer on a team that I was a part of who was really into art and music and literature, and he said that one of his favorite practices was to pay close attention to the common practices and sleights of hand or what have you that different artists across different media types would employ, and pluck those out of that person's artistic practice and apply them into his tool belt to use in entirely different circumstances. And it sounds like you've had a lot of opportunity to do that.
I really like that example. It just shows about the transferability from one industry to another, right? Whether we're talking about like evaluating software, evaluating music, right? Like you can use these tools and techniques across the board, and you're not limited in your tool set. That's fantastic.
What are some ways? I imagine there are people out there, perhaps that are early in their career, for whom that feels like a mysterious process. Can you tell us give us some advice, perhaps, on how to draw best practices from one context and apply them into others?
I think, especially for people early in their career, they learn to engage in informational interviews, for example, when they're searching for jobs. And it's using that same technique and that same curiosity when after they've taken the job and they're given a project and they don't know what to do with it. And it's setting up informational conversations, and it may be with people inside the organization who then give them referrals to people outside, or using a tool like LinkedIn to search for people with skills or expertise in the area that they're looking to make change in, and that can advise them potentially on the project that they're working on. I think right now, given that we're in a world where people want to connect, right? We see it happening every day across different modern social channels, and young people today can take advantage of that eagerness of people to connect, to have these kind of calls and understand how they can better implement solutions to their project.
Oh, agreed. That's great. A constant stream of conversation with different people from different perspectives. One of the things that comes to my mind in thinking about this is something that I learned from one of Sprinkler's other leaders, uh, Luca Lazzarone, whom I took an idea to early in my time here at Sprinkler, and he had this model that I thought was really useful, where he said, "Okay, so you've got this idea for something that some of your coworkers might do, a practice you're familiar with that you're trying to get spread around the organization." And he had 4 questions that he suggested people answer. The first is, what is it? Summarize it clearly. The second is, what is its business impact? The third question was, how do I access it when I know that it's time to do that practice? And the fourth was, what signs should I keep an eye out for that it's time to go and invoke that practice, or to reach out to that resource? Um, Clues that, in, for example, the world of analyst relations, we try to make analyst inquiries or research documents available to the rest of the organization. And so asking yourself, as I go to promote that around the organization, I let folks know, for example, that whenever you are thinking about a business challenge that's not unique to our company in particular, but maybe more universally experienced, that could be a good time to ask an analyst for advice or for research. What uh,
Absolutely.
what's what sorts of what sorts of practices have you enjoyed or felt like were most successful in campaigns of change across the different industries that you've worked in? Is there any particular practices that come to the top of mind?
I think transparency for me would be probably the top. So in running, any change campaigns, being very transparent about what you're trying to achieve, who is going to affect, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, right, is really important. And I think with any, especially organizational change, people all there's always some group that's not going to be happy with the change. But as long as you're transparent about what you're trying to accomplish and how it'll benefit them in the short term and the long term, you can get them on board and sway them to realize the benefit and the value. I think also, thinking about, especially as we go into more multi-generational workplaces, a lot of more junior employees ask a lot of times the question, why are we having this change, and how it's going to affect them. And so that need and demand for transparency from people who are orchestrating the change, and even from the senior level executives, is really important for the business and to get everyone's buy-in.
That's great. That's great. Well, let's look at a specific example, shall we? Let's talk about some of these models that you have brought together and spread throughout the organization here at Sprinklr. Will you let us know where should we start in talking about those?
So we talked about the value realization model. We could, talk about some more examples there. We could talk about, I'm doing some work right now with you on competitive takeout. We have a model there that we could talk about. We also have,
Let
some work going on in technology and the software that we use internally with our employees. Where would you like to start?
hmm. Oh, that's all. Yeah, that's really cool. But let's drill down into the value realization model in particular. Can you? We've got up on the screen here a schematic of this model. Can you tell us about this?
Sure. So it's great to have this on the screen. As I was, mentioning earlier, this model took together processes that existed. For example, in a pre-sales motion, you're trying to position value to a prospective customer. You want them to be able to understand what Sprinkler can do. You want to be able to understand their insights and their objectives for their business. And you may have, different sales materials and these use cases that I mentioned that are on our sprinkler.com website to help you to do that. As you that becomes more formal and you move down, the sales funnel, you start to prioritize the business requirements that a customer may have. You may do things like demos to help them understand how the sprinkler software works, and you're starting to collect the information that you're receiving in these meetings with the customer into a centralized place that we're calling, internally, our discovery workbook. And so this is, one central place where the pre-sales team and the post-sales team can collect the information uh, with their customer interactions, and that way anybody can reference them at any given time in the life cycle of the customer's journey. And then as we move to the right side of the screen, we start to see the post sales process. And this is where we're implementing the software based on the requirements that were gathered in the sales process to ensure that the customer's objectives are met when they go live with the software. And one way that we have been able to do this pretty, standardized and in a scalable way is through what we are calling software blueprints, which are best practice bills of our software with the 5 main products that we showed earlier. And this way, a customer can start to see value immediately using the features and the functions that we know that our 1,000 other customers are gaining value from already. And so once they are able to see that, they can still continue to configure the software to meet any customizations they have. Maybe they're in different markets, with different languages, and they need the certain level of customization. But at least they're off to a good start. And then finally,
Mhm.
as we are going through the customer journey and we have, transitioned them into, at post go live to our customer success team, they're working closely with our customer support team. They, have access to what we call value realization and adoption dashboards. And these dashboards really show them from a feature perspective, which features they're using within that product. Maybe they're features that they're using a lot and they want to make sure that their teams are aware of it. So they need to do some internal communications around that. Or they're features they're not using and they'd like to know how to better use them. And so we're able to go and deliver training to them to help them understand the benefits of that. And so those dashboards help them quantify the value of their investment. And so going back to, the top of the conversation where I talked about, value realization is, unlocking the potential, with our customers, it's unlocking the potential of Sprinklr and helping them with their interactions with their customers across modern channels. And these dashboards help to ensure that they are doing that on a consistent, predictable basis.
I think that is so powerful and intriguing, those dashboards in particular. Instead of waiting until the end of an annual cycle with a license, say, and who knows how much adoption has occurred inside of a particular organization. Inside of some organizations, lots of adoption. Inside of others, perhaps not as much as either party would wish. Instead, now there's this continuous visibility into the ROI, and which enables through measurements for that to be managed for maximum opportunities for success.
That's right, especially with our enterprise customers that have very large global footprints. They're in multiple markets, multiple geographies, decentralized business units. The dashboards allow them to ensure that there's consistency across the board, and that just helps them understand the value of their investment.
So I love that diagram that we had up. It looks like the basic structure of it is a 4-part uh, customer journey, essentially, with a business outcome, followed by a responsible party, followed by some specific tools that responsible party will use to drive that business outcome at that stage in the journey. Is that a fair way to describe that?
That's absolutely the best way to describe it. And as I had mentioned earlier, these were tools that these teams were already using to obtain these outcomes. And so by putting everything together on this one page, by collecting the information that we have, with our customer interactions into the centralized workbook, we're able to just have this consistency internally also with our customers and how we interact with them. So it's just a realignment from how we were doing things before to how we're doing them now.
Mm-hmm. And specifically articulating the bright spots and common use cases, the primary use cases in a model, in a maturity model type format. So let's talk about this one. What is this chart?
So this chart actually helps us to have that first conversation with the customer. We can use, through secondary research, try to understand a CMO's goals, what their plans are for the next year, where they want to take the company in the direction that they want it to go. And we can try to align that to these positive business outcomes that are outlined on the page. And so let me just orient you to the boxes here. Down here on the left side, we have our 5 main products, starting with modern marketing. And then the next column talks about how you can increase your revenue using the product modern marketing. And so We have here generate more sales with better content using integrated insights, leveraging AI. And so that can help, someone, if it's not the CMO, someone in the marketing department understand how the Sprinklr product can benefit them to help them increase their revenue. In the next column, we have how they can save cost or decrease cost. And that then leads to the last one, which is mitigate risk. And so these are the three main outcomes, and they're organized here for each of the 5 products on this page. And so anyone looking at this slide can understand, okay, this is how I can align my business goals and my business objectives with what Sprinklr can do and start to initiate the conversation with us.
Mm-hmm. So this is a granular, but not too granular articulation of business impact in a way that goes beyond just that first value proposition of driving increased revenue. I like it. And
That's right. And I
what are
think
all the little AI clouds all around?
so the AI clouds mean that that particular outcome is supported through artificial intelligence technology within the Sprinklr platform. And so as you can see, there are a lot of clouds on this page, and we're hoping to add some more in the coming year. But it just shows that we are using the latest technology, the latest and greatest, to support our customers in realizing their outcomes.
Fantastic. And you've got one more table here. This one's another layer down, all the more granular. What is this gorgeous chart?
Sure. So this actually shows the use cases that relate to the outcomes that we had on the previous slide. And so here, I'm actually going to go into the second row into modern advertising. And so, we know there's a lot of news out there about, people putting ads that may, affect their brand's reputation. And so people are, enterprises are very concerned about how consumers react to ads. And so things like mitigating risk, which we have on the extreme right side, protect your brand's reputation, are really important. And so they may look at this and say, oh, actually, when I read through these use case boxes, like eliminating brand risk through governance rules and a compliance framework, and being able to moderate the content that I'm putting out there, which is number 16, that resonates a lot. That's actually what my organization's trying to do. We've been trying to do it offline with spreadsheets and email. But this tool, if Sprinklr can offer me this use case, this is a really good reason for me to engage and have a conversation, because protecting our brand's reputation is really important to us. And so we just see, like, being able to present these 45 use cases, and these are our top 45. We have hundreds of use cases with the Sprinklr platform, but these we find are the ones that resonate the most with customers, especially the ones that we have, that we know that other customers are going to appreciate and understand very quickly how it can bring them alignment to their business objectives and help them realize value.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I think that is a really powerful way to tell that story and to get everyone working with a common vernacular, as you had said. Well, this is great. I really appreciate a chance to show off your work here to the folks in the Coffee Club audience. I think that they will, many folks will no doubt be inspired by the analysis that you have done and that the team now is able to leverage in articulating the value and this to this degree of detail in pursuit of realization of that value. I really appreciate you taking the time to walk us through this.
Thanks, Marshall, for having me. It was great to be on Coffee Club.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. Folks, please don't forget to give a quick like and subscribe here to the Coffee Club YouTube channel. We really appreciate your time joining us today, and I hope you'll come back next time. All right. Have a nice afternoon.